Hi, you guys. You're listening to Good Vibes Sunday, a podcast brought to you by I Am Warhol, the blog. How do you feel about getting older? In the past 6 months, I've asked this question to every woman over 30 that I've encountered. To quote Ali McGraw, the message women my age send to terrified 30 and 40-year-old women is that it's almost over. What a gip. Beverly Johnson said it best. Why am I trying to keep this teenage body when I'm not a teenager anymore and everyone knows it? I ask this question so often because, for one, I'm curious to know how being what the world considers extremely beautiful affects your self-esteem when that beauty is no longer around. And the second reason I like to ask the question is because we can all learn from one another, and there's comfort in knowing that others have felt the same as we have. And I quote, "If you're blessed enough to grow older, which is how I look at aging, I think often of all the angels of 9/11 who won't. There's so much wisdom to be gained from people who are celebrating the process with vibrancy and vigor and grace. I've had wonderful mentors. Maya Angelou is 83 and still doing public speaking tours. Quincy Jones, who recently celebrated 78, is always off in some far-flung part of the world creating new projects. Sidney Poitier, at 84, epitomizes who and what I want to be if I'm fortunate enough to live as long. For sure, we live in a youth-obsessed culture that is constantly trying to tell us that if we're not young and glowing and hot, that we don't matter. The entire television rating advertising system is set up to serve the 18 to 54 demographic, which says to anyone outside of that group, we don't care about you. I refuse to let a system, a culture, a distorted view of reality tell me I do not matter. That only happens when we buy into the propaganda. People who lie about their age are denying the truth and contributing to a sickness pervading our society, the sickness of wanting to be what you're not. But denial leads to delusion. I know for sure that only by owning who and what you are can you step into the fullness of life. Every year should teach you something valuable. Whether you get the lesson is up to you. Every year brings you closer to expressing your whole and healed self. I celebrate that, honor it, hold it in reverence, and I'm grateful for every age I'm blessed to become." End of quote, Oprah Winfrey. So we're talking about aging, and as I say this, I turned 29 last week on Wednesday. But before my birthday, I have already been pretty curious about how women feel about aging. So for the past 6 months, I've asked women from ages 18 to 70 how they view the process of aging. And it's interesting because it really varies from person to person. But what I've realized is the ones who have a lot more to show, for example, social media accounts who are beautiful women, are the ones that seem to be a lot more fearful of aging. So like the last time that I did a podcast at my personal home, and I did it in a way where I just kind of was very candid. And today I'm doing the same thing, just because from that episode of Fuck Being Perfect, I just really felt like with this topic, I just wanted to be as comfortable and as real as I could. I want to talk about beauty, about my beauty. You know, a lot of times women who are beautiful are so modest, right? So when people give them a compliment, they're just, oh, well, look at my nose, or, oh, don't, they just get very embarrassed and very modest. But for me, I feel like I have learned to accept a compliment because, I've been told I'm beautiful or whatever it is. And that's not to say I'm the most beautiful person on the planet. It's just acknowledging that, okay, physically, yes, I'm not, I'm a beautiful person. I'm not ugly. I know that I'm an attractive person. And it's quite frustrating when women who are beautiful try to be just very modest about the whole thing. And so I feel like it's just not being very honest. But I've learned to be honest. It's one of those things that being modest is something I learned growing up. I felt like when I was growing up, I was always taught to be modest. But being honest is something I've earned over years of going through broken times and just life. I've earned the right to be honest and truthful, to be who I am and what I am, just as I am. I've earned that. Before, when I was younger, I would always worry about if people thought I was being snobby or if I was being conceited, if it sounded too full of myself to say, yes, I am beautiful. Look at her over there thinking she's all that. She's so great. Like, at this age, honey, I don't care anymore what people think. I've earned the right to just be who I am. And if I am beautiful physically, I'm beautiful physically. I can say that. I could say that because I'm being honest. There's a difference between being full of yourself and thinking you're above people and just being happy with yourself, acknowledging that, yes, you are beautiful and able to take a compliment. And I think that's where I am today. And that's what I've learned in time, is just that I don't have to worry so much about what people think. And if they're going to think I'm full of myself, I can humbly take a compliment and appreciate it for what it is. Sybil Shepherd says it best. She says, "My beauty I did not earn. I was given this beauty. I had beautiful parents. I did not have to work for it. And that blessing opened many doors for me." And that's what I'm saying, is that being beautiful, most of the time people say, oh no, it wasn't my beauty that got me there. Oh no, it didn't open any doors. It was, me. No, let's be honest. Having a physical appearance that is attractive, it will open more doors. That's just the truth of it. Does it mean that it's everything in life? No. See, that's where the whole misconception comes. People believe that being physically attractive is everything. And that's why aging becomes so scary to so many, because so much emphasis of value and worth has been placed on beauty, especially with social media today. And as I've grown up, I've realized that beauty is something I have. That's great. But it isn't what brings me value. I'm a creative person. I have found my passion. I am obsessed with my job and to grow my business and being the best mother I could be, being the best wife I could be, growing as a person, going down my spiritual journey, learning myself. I mean, these are all things that I found value in and want to be valued for. And to lead myself in a direction where I'm fulfilled, and having my, hair done and nails done is great. It's beautiful. It's fun, but it's not my life. It's not a fulfillment. It's not everything. What fulfills me is making a difference, serving people, being in the customer service industry where we get to work with clients. All of these things are really what bring true fulfillment for me. And when I die one day, I will not look back and think, gosh, I was so gorgeous, I was beautiful. No, it's all about, for me personally, it's going to be all about what have I done with my life that has made an impact and a change in others. So putting out there, just this whole thing about beauty, because it is, I know it's very frustrating. It's frustrating even for me to see people who just say, oh no, it's not, it doesn't matter. No, it does. It is what it is. I mean, let's be honest. But it doesn't matter so much that everybody has to obsess over it so much. Thinking back to when I was 25 years old, I remember thinking, gosh, I'm 5 years away from 30. It's so scary. I mean, I had a big fear that as I grew older, I wouldn't be valued as much anymore. And I was terrified of that. I feel like we all want to be valued. We all want to be loved. But what really turned it all around for me was when I stared death right in the face. When I watched my mother figure pass away at 54 and think, oh my gosh, she is so young. 54 is very young to just be diagnosed with cancer and to die 3 weeks later with no recognition of how the hell did this disease just take her life that quickly. That's when my entire life, it's almost like someone hit a reset button on me and everything changed. I used to be so self-absorbed, so obsessed with myself, with, just getting my teeth whitened, getting my hair done, just all of these things that are, you could say it's necessary beauty, But when you are so obsessed with looking a certain way for other people, and when your entire world is revolved around that, and then you face your mother passing away to cancer at 54, all of that just smacks you in the face. It's almost like, what the hell have I been doing my entire life? What a waste, right? But it really wasn't a waste, because in the end, it was all a learning experience for me. And what I learned was that death is coming to us all. And our time on this planet is so limited, and we only have so much time to do something magnificent with our lives. And revolving everything around beauty, or, art is beauty. There is beauty in so many different ways and so many different things. But when it's revolved around this idea, this social concept that, taking a highlight of our lives to post on social media and doing these things that are just purely about living for others, and others don't live our lives for us, that there's a bigger world out there beyond social media, beyond just wanting to look a certain part for other people. When you really dig down deep, ultimately all we want is love. That is all we ever want. And we're trying to find this love in social media. We're trying to find this love outside of ourselves, when really it's always been inside of us. We were born with this gift. And once you learn to explore that self-love, everything changes. Your entire life becomes this unveiling of your truest and most fulfilling self. You begin to explore parts of yourself you didn't even know existed, because your mind was so wrapped around this outside idea. And once you go within, you realize you are enough. You're everything. You are you. And you're so blessed to be living and taking a breath, that your heart is beating, and you're thankful for that. And once you become thankful for those things, then you become thankful for everything around you. And then everything changes, therefore, even further. So for me, everything began to really make sense after she passed. And that's why I've said it in my last podcast, that her passing was the best and worst thing that's ever happened to me. It was the worst and best thing that's ever happened. And so many people would question me and say, well, how could that be? How could someone's death be the best thing to happen to you? But what I really mean by that is that her passing and her life taught me how to live. I remember watching this movie. It was called Tuesday Mornings with Murray. In this movie, this old man who is dying says, when you learn how to die, you'll learn how to live. And that couldn't be more true. When you become aware of death, when you become aware of everything further outside of this small little world that everybody is just floating in, you begin to see life in a whole new light. You begin to actually live your life when you think about death and realize that we're all going to die and that we're all only here for a certain amount of time. Then your time becomes so much more valuable to you. Then you really want to make a difference. Then you start to see that this body of ours is just a body here for a moment, that it's a car almost that we're occupying in this life, and that we will soon be abandoning it and moving on to, spirit world or heaven or whatever it is you believe in. But for me, learning this was the epitome of everything for me. For me, learning this meant that I got to live my truest self, that I got to live myself as authentic and as truthful as I am and that I could be. That for me just is so delicious. I just want to relish in every moment. Watch my little guy sleep. I watch him and he's growing up so fast. I just want to slow it down. For me, aging is an opportunity. For me, aging means that I get to live another day, that I get to breathe another day. I get to learn a new lesson. New things emerge in my life every day that I just get to stop, pay attention, and learn from them. I've even learned to just be with myself. I enjoy being with myself now. I enjoy doing things alone and having the gift of just kind of soaking in my own thoughts. And when I'm around others, I can give myself further and deeper just because I've learned to just love myself. Even when I take a compliment now, before, like I said, I was very modest. Modesty is something that is learned. Honesty is something that is earned. So I learned to be modest, but truthfully, I've grown into and out of modesty and grown into being honest. So now when someone compliments me and says, your family is beautiful and I'm beautiful, I say, thank you. I appreciate that. I really do. And, I've had my whole podcast about, fuck being perfect, because the reality is nothing is perfect, So I always question sometimes people's perception of what is really beautiful. But in the end, I've just learned to take a compliment and really just have it set well with me. So I want to talk about the world and the whole sickness behind this whole aging thing. I mean, you go down to celebrities all the way over to sports, for example. I remember when Adam was playing baseball, and being 30 was, you're an ancient old man, being 25, you're at your prime, and being 20, you're just ready to get going. So, everything has been placed on age, and I feel as though if you look at the Chinese culture, for example, they value wisdom, they value age, they love their elderly. But as Americans, I feel like our elderly are just pushed into nursing homes, and we don't give them the value that they deserve. And I remember when I was in college, I did an internship where I was actually assigned to go to a nursing home and sit down with elderly and learn from them. It was for a communications class. And to volunteer is basically getting points for volunteering. However, I learned so much from these elderly people, and the lessons and the stories they told were invaluable. I mean, you can't get that any other way than aging. And so to me personally, I just don't understand this whole obsession with being afraid of aging. I mean, I was a victim of it too, but at some point we have to all wake up. At some point we were moving in a direction of, like I've said before, is choice, and we're evolving into more intelligent beings. How are we still not valuing wisdom and age? I just don't get it. I think it takes an epiphany in someone's life to really realize. I know it did for me. And a lot of times when people have babies, when you are holding this newborn in your hand, all of a sudden the world stops in that moment and you're so appreciative. Imagine having that every single day. It happens the same way when someone passes away. When you watch someone's life literally slip out of their body, all of a sudden that moment just stops. And your entire perception of everything that used to matter to you no longer matters at that moment. Nothing matters. So I try to always carry that with me. I try to always not allow myself to forget that moment just because it was, like I said, the worst moment of my life, but it was also the best because I've learned so much from it. I learned that in the face of death, beautiful, rich, not rich, poor, Asian, black, gay, not gay, it doesn't matter what or who you are. In that moment, we are all the same. And knowing this is what really makes me realize that every single minute that we are blessed to be alive is just a moment of a miracle. You ever stop to really think about that? Your heart has been beating since the day you were born. You have been taking breaths every single, few seconds for as long as you have been alive. Think about that. Be present in that. Honor that. Hold it in reverence and grace. Another thing I want to talk about is tolerance. Tolerance is something that with age I have less and less of. I no longer allow people with dark energies to consume any of my minutes on this earth. I have no tolerance for negativity. If it means me having to completely remove someone from my life, I have learned that I have the right to do that. That I've earned that right by being just who I am, and that everyone has the right to invite people into their life who are just good for them, who bring well-being overall, and who we enjoy being around. And I just don't have any tolerance for people and things that don't promote joy, happiness, and love. And that does not exclude people who have just negative things to constantly say, who are always judging. I stay clear of people who judge. If I hear someone say something about someone else, I instantly know that whatever they have said about someone else could have possibly been said about me, and that's just the kind of person they are. The biggest lesson in that, I feel, is it's a quote by Maya Angelou where she says, "When people show you who they are, believe them the first time." And I live by this. So I've learned to really whittle away the people in my life from before that just didn't serve my happiness, who just had dark energies, and I've completely taken those people out of my life, and that's something I'm proud to say. And this goes not just for people, but also things and habits and ways of life. I've been able to finally realize what are the things that promote joy and happiness, and what are the things that don't, what are the things that are just taking up space in my life. You know, the things that used to knock me on my knees just don't faze me anymore. And that's such an amazing thing that comes with age, is that you become so resilient, that you begin to see a pattern in life that, you know, sometimes things are bad, but then the sun always comes up. And if you begin to learn to trust the flow of life and trust the process, that everything always ends up being okay. And I've learned to not resist that. That only comes with knowing, and really with time. I mean, it's some of those things that just only can be learned by being knocked down on our knees and over and time again, and realizing a pattern that you keep seeing. I've learned to protect my energy. I've learned that people will put their negativity on you a lot of times, criticize you or judge you based on a reflection that they feel for themselves. And I've learned with only age that I am not responsible for other people's lack of self-love, and that I am responsible for the love that I give myself, and I do not have to listen to anybody else's judgment when they don't know me. I'm telling you guys, living with this freedom of not giving a damn about what people think about you is liberating. It's like literally taking 10 pounds off your back, and what a gift to give yourself. When you're close to death, you won't be thinking about the all-nighters you pulled at the office or how much money you made your entire life. The thought that will linger is the one of, what if? What if I lived my life for me? What if I didn't care so much about what people thought? What if I did what I always wanted to do? Learning from my challenges is the difference between succeeding and getting stuck. I've learned to just take a breath, to recenter myself, and to know that everything will be better. I've learned to really agree with any problem that arises. I agree with it, I don't resist it, and I just find the center of everything. So I just find a way to get through it, to not resist it, but to flow with it, and to find somewhere in there a piece of something that I can grab onto and be grateful for. Gratitude is everything. And if I've learned anything in my life so far, is to be grateful for what I have and for what I don't have. Because what I don't have is the things that I work for. Those are the goals that I've set for myself. And the things that I don't acquire, that are just there for unnecessary fulfillment, those are the things that I don't need. So there's a difference between wanting and needing, and I've been so blessed to now know the difference. Yes, I'm going to bring up Oprah again, but there is a part in her book. If you haven't read What I Know for Sure, you are not living. You must read this book. But there is a part in the book where she does talk about aging, and she says that one day she went up to a fan who was asking to take a photo with her, And when she went up to her fan, this fan was actually having a birthday party, and she was, I believe, turning 48. And Oprah said, what are you celebrating? And she said, well, I'm celebrating my birthday. And she says, oh, well, congratulations. How old are you? And this woman said, oh, everybody kind of at the table laughed this nervous laugh. And she said, oh, well, I don't want everybody to know that I'm turning 48. And Oprah says, oh my gosh, you're turning 48. What? And so she starts kind of laughing, takes the photo with her. But then Oprah kind of has this moment where she realizes, gosh, this woman is turning 48 and she's celebrating with this family or friends, whoever group she was with. But in reality, what is she celebrating? She's terrified of turning 48. She's not celebrating every breath that she's taking, the gift of the time that she's had on this earth. The lesson to be taken from this today, from me to you, is just to stop and to relish in just realizing that you're still here. You're still breathing, you're walking, you're existing. And that in itself, every single day that you get to do that is a blessing. There's so many people that won't get to your age, who pass away before their time. And to me, knowing this has changed everything for me. And I hope it does the same for you, even if it is just for today. But I hope that you carry this in a more profound way. Thank you for tuning in, Good Vibers. And be sure to subscribe to Good Vibes Sunday by downloading the podcast app found at the App Store. Catch you all next week. Have a happy, happy Sunday.